Escanaba beat Menominee?
I'm just going to keep this short. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to keep this short. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, no, no. We need to do more than just apologize to Escanaba for saying they couldn't beat Menominee. Well, better get started. In short, I'm going to just go ahead and say I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all. In short, I'm going to just go ahead and say I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all. I'm going to just go ahead and say I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all. I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all. I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all. In short, I'm going to just go ahead and say I don't think Stevenson is going to be challenged at all, at all, at all. Hey everybody, Jake Durant, host of the Local 3 Sports Zone here. Instead of doing our normal 3 and out this week, I needed to take a minute to come clean. This just in, I'm terrible at predicting games. 2 weeks ago, I said Escanaba had no shot against Menominee, and I was wrong. Last week, I did the same for Rapid River when they played Stevenson. Wrong again. So if during the course of the show I say something about your favorite team potentially losing this week, just know that I'm probably dead wrong and you should feel great about your chances. This is the Local 3 Sports Zone.
You are in the Local 3 High School Sports Zone. Sponsored by Public Service Garage, Marquette Automotive, Slumberland Furniture.
Welcome everybody to week 8 of the Local 3 High School Sports Zone. I'm joined as always by Calvin Lewis. Well, the Crow is back with us too, folks. Calvin, what's your favorite thing on the show today?
Probably just to rub it in and say that I have been 4-1 on predictions and you not so much.
I can't really fight that. This is the Week in Review.
Week in Review. It's the High School Sports Zone Week in Review.
It's the Week in Review.
What did you make of the game of the week?
Okay, Calvin, so over 2,300 people showed up for the Battle of Delta County. The atmosphere was amazing. I was only able to stay for, just a little bit of that game, but from what I hear and from, seeing the highlights and things like that, Escanaba definitely did a lot on the defensive end to disrupt that Gladstone offense. I mean, if you hold Darren Johnson, Player of the Year candidate, to 33 passing yards, 1 total rushing yard in that game, that's a great performance. Again, Escanaba with a huge statement win. You thought that win last week against Menominee was a statement. Well, they bounced right back and got another one against Gladstone.
Week in Review.
What are your thoughts on the 8-man football season?
So the Wild 8-man league, an absolute crazy year. Teams have been all over the place. You do have your top teams, the Rapid Rivers, the Stevensons, but I mean, every team in this league is so competitive. You think about Superior Central, 2 wins, but they scored 60-something points a game the last few games. So I mean, there's just loads of talent in the 8-man league. Again, Rapid River showed they had the heart, they had the toughness to have that Stevenson team, and man, the 8-man league continues to just be so exciting this year.
Yeah, it's definitely surprising. I know we said last week that it would be an interesting matchup between Rapid River and Stevenson, and I also made the comment that I'm scared of the entire Stevenson team. I'm being a full-grown adult. But you know what, Jake? After that result last week, I'm absolutely terrified of the Rapid River Rockets now.
Week in Review.
How do you see the West Pack playing out?
Another exciting conference, the Westpac Conference, a huge matchup. We have Hancock and West Iron County set to battle it out this Friday. You got Hancock, who scores around 40 a game, versus West Iron County, who only gives up 13 a game. Two different styles. Hancock likes to run and gun, get up tempo. West Iron County kind of likes to slow it down, play that old school game. Something's got to give, so this game has huge implications on that conference. This one's going to be a good one.
Well, you've got one of the best offenses in Hancock, just as you mentioned, facing off against probably the best defense in West Iron County. So it's going to be another traditional head-to-head matchup, you know, high-powered offense versus a high-powered defense. Which one is going to give? We'll have our decision on Friday. And I think the real question here is, what in the world's a YCon?
Weekend review.
Coming up next, we're going to punch some playoff tickets, and Calvin will bring you the story of how the Norway football team is rallying around a lost teammate. Welcome back to the Local 3 Sports Zone. We had a number of teams going into last week looking to clinch a playoff berth. Let's see who got it done. It's time to hop aboard the playoff train.
All aboard the playoff train.
The Hancock Bulldogs and their high-powered offense were in Gwin last Friday looking for win number 6. It was a back-and-forth battle for a while, but the Bulldogs eventually pulled away en route to a 56-32 win. It's only the third playoff bid in Hancock football history.
Ticket punched.
Escanaba hosted the Gladstone Braves in our game of the week, and the Eskimos did not disappoint. They were stellar on offense and stifling on defense, coming out on top in a battle of two top teams in the UP.
Ticket punched.
Kingsford is playing an 8-game schedule this year, so they were looking for their 5th win and a playoff spot. They hosted a rival Iron Mountain and dominated the Mountaineers 42-7. And the West Iron County Wycons, the surprise team of the year, they lost their first game of the year, then reeled off 6 straight wins to get their auto bid.
Ticket punched.
Now there are a few more teams that can clinch playoff bids with wins this week. Menominee is hosting Kingsford, and if the Maroons win, they'll be in the playoffs for the 600th year in a row. It's a good streak. The defending 8-man champion North Central Jets square off against undefeated Rapid River. A win gets the Jets back in the dance. Forest Park and Ontonagon both sit at 4-2 and will play each other. Winner gets an auto bid to the playoffs. And Newberry hosts Rogers City. A 5th win for an 8-game schedule means playoffs for the Indians. Real quick, before we move on, we did want to give a mention to the Westwood Patriots. Their game last weekend against Ishpeming was canceled after the death of an Ishpeming student. We know Westwood's playoff berth was under the worst of circumstances and low on the list of priorities. We would be remiss if we didn't congratulate the Patriots on what has been and what will continue to be a great season. For some, football may seem like any other sport, but for others, it's a way of life. It could bring people together in times of trouble and even mourning. This past June, the Norway Knights football team lost one of their own, Brian Stankina, passed away after saving a drowning swimmer. This season, the Knights are paying tribute to Brian in a special way. Calvin Lewis has a story.
The 2017-2018 football season has been anything but easy for the Norway Knights. Sure, the team is currently 6-1, but earlier in the year, this team lost one of their own. Brian Stankina passed away this past June while saving a drowning swimmer.
He was a very special kid. And, you know, as a football coach, we lost a great football player. But as a human being, we lost a great person.
The Knights have dedicated the season to their teammate, and they aren't the only team remembering Brian. Finlandia, Gwyn, and Kingsford have all added the number 75 sticker to their helmets in remembrance of Brian.
It says something about the sport of football, and it's that true love of football. Above winning and losing, what football players have together, there's just something special about it. And I love the sport of football, and it's my favorite sport, but there's just something special about the sport of football with that camaraderie and that teamwork and that effort, and he was that. That's what he was. He was the definition of a football player.
It's like he changed when he went on the field. He became a beast. Yeah. And then off the field, he was really nice to everyone.
That off-field personality is what made Brian loved by everyone in Norway. When news spread of his passing, there was an outpour of love and support from the community.
He was one of my best friends. He was caring. He was always there to make people laugh. Just a joyful person, a great athlete.
Even though Brian is gone, his memory lives on through the people whose lives he touched.
I've told his parents and I've told other people, I was just fortunate to be able to coach Brian Stankina for 2 years. He was in my life 2 years, and I was thankful to have the time I had with him.
Next on the Sports Zone, we'll reveal our latest rankings. We've got 8-man and 11-man rankings plus reaction coming up. Welcome back to the Sports Zone. A reminder, if you want to reach out to us on social media, visit the Facebook page, Local 3 Sports Zone, or you can follow us on Twitter at Local 3 Sports ZN. Well, Calvin, I think the rankings are going to be a little different this week. Let's go through the latest ranks brought to you by Marquette Automotive. Escanaba was impressive again, taking down previously undefeated Gladstone. They remain at number 1. We have a new number 2 as Kingsford steps into that slot. The Flivers haven't lost since week 1. Number 3 is going to be Menominee. The Maroons bounce back in a big way from their week 6 loss to Escanaba. Gladstone falls to number 4 after their loss to Escanaba. And new to the rankings this week is Hancock. The Bulldogs have averaged 51 points per game since their week 4 loss to Lance.
You know, just on the outside of this is Norway, Westwood, West Iron County, and Negaunee. Norway, a team that's 6-1. That I've been saying, you know, is a good team all season long, and they're just still sitting out on the outside of the top 5. So this is a very competitive division right here that we've got, and it just speaks volumes of the quality of teams in this division.
For the first time in weeks, we've got a new number 1 in 8-man. Rapid River made a statement last Friday night, taking down Stevenson, the former number 1 team in the state. The Rockets are number 1. Stevenson, they don't drop far. They lost a tough road game against one of the best, if not the best teams in the state. They're at number 2 in our rankings and probably number 2 in the state. Forest Park sticks at number 3. They were off last weekend. Ontonagon stays at number 4 after 80 to nothing win over Bear Lake. And North Central beat Kearney Nadeau 82-6 to hold on to the number 5 spot. First of all, 82 points, 80 points, like what is up with that?
Unbelievable. Again, you know, I was just saying, you know, 11-man, it speaks volumes for 11-man, but what about 8-man? I mean, look at those score lines. It's unbelievable.
Right, obviously the field that opens up with only 8 guys on the field, but still 80 points, that's kind of unheard of. But, I mean, going back to the rankings, I think it's pretty good. Rapid River, like I said, what a performance by Rapid River Stevenson to bottle up those 2 running backs in Becerra and Glover. It's such a difficult task to do. Those 2 guys are great athletes. They just did an amazing job playing an overall good team defense. Stevenson, they still deserve to be number 2. I mean, I don't see any other team beating them right now in the 8-man league other than obviously Rapid River, so I think they stay at number 2. Other than that, I think everything kind of falls into place for the 8-man league, and I think it sorted itself out this week. All right, coming up next, we'll go over the Player of the Year watch, plus we look back on the biggest plays of Week 7. It's the top 3 on 3. Welcome back to the Local 3 Sports Zone. Just a reminder, if you want to reach the show, like us on Facebook, Local 3 Sports Zone, or you can follow us on Twitter at Local 3 Sports ZN. It's now time for the top 3 on 3 brought to you by Slumberland Furniture.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Rapid River's Logan Hardwick and Brent Lundquist. Lundquist rolls out of the pocket and fires deep downfield. Hardwick makes the catch and shows off a nice little cutback for the score. This would prove to be the game-winning TD for the Rockets.
Number 2.
We had a few plays to choose from in this game. Escanaba's Scout Wonder makes the catch in the flat. He puts on the brakes and fakes out 2 defenders. Once Scout has space, he's just going to be faster than you.
Number 1.
Our Player of the Week comes courtesy of the Marquette Redmen. After 2 successful fake punts on one drive, They pull out the old hook and lateral. It works to perfection, and Brendan Caskey hits Ethan Martish in the flats, and he pitches it to Andrew Gale, who's going to race 23 yards for the score. Before we get into the Player of the Year watch, we're going to be unveiling our top 5 players for the entire season in a couple of weeks. After that, we're going to open it up to a fan vote, which will make up a portion of the final vote for the Player of the Year, combined with our votes here on the show. But for now, let's get into the Player of the Year watch for Week 7. Drew Gale had himself a day for Marquette. He rushed for 171 yards and 4 touchdowns to go with his hook and lateral touchdown catch. Ethan Molesky had 287 yards of offense and scored 5 TDs as Menominee took care of Sault Ste. Marie. Colton Solani went off against Gwynn. The sophomore QB threw for 245 yards and 5 touchdowns in Hancock's win over Gwynn. He also ran in another score. Negauni's Drew Duchesne is going to be a problem in the Mid-Penn for years. The do-it-all Negaunee sophomore caught a 70-yard touchdown, returned a punt for a touchdown, and returned a kickoff for a touchdown. Kingsford Trevor Pavolo had over 100 yards of total offense and scored 2 touchdowns in the Flivers' big win over Iron Mountain. North Central's Trenton Schaff rushed for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 4 carries. He also caught a touchdown. Superior Central had a pair of standouts this weekend. Rubens Fink rushed for 157 yards and 3 TDs, while teammate Bo Rondo racked up 229 yards and 2 TDs. Logan Hardwick was a beast in Rapid River's upset over Stevenson. He hauled in the winning 41-yard touchdown and had 3 interceptions on defense. Coming up next, Calvin does yet another terrible impression, and the game of the week, Week 8, will let you know where we're headed after the break. It's hard to believe, but Week 8 is already here. The season is already 2/3 over, but I've got a feeling the best is still yet to come. Game of the week for Week 8 is...
the Negaunee Miners, the Marquette Redmen, the Local 3 Game of the Week, sponsored by Public Service Garage.
Backs are against the wall in this rivalry game. Negaunee has won 4 straight after an 0-3 start and can move 1 win closer to an automatic playoff bid with a win. Marquette has rallied after early season struggles and need a win out to have any shot at the playoffs. We've got the Marquette Redmen visiting the Negaunee Miners in our Game of the Week.
And now it's time for a terrible impression by Kelvin.
My fellow Americans, man, it's been a while since I said that. I forgot how awesome that sounds. That's pretty cool. My fellow Americans, I gotta say it's gonna be a really good one this week. You got the Negaunee Miners and these Marquette Redmen. The Negaunee Miners have chipped, clawed, scratched, and chipped their way to the top. But the Marquette Redmen, they're gonna be having a great opportunity in this one. I'll tell you what though, this ain't no Texan football, but it is UP football. And what that means is this is anybody's game. There's an old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame won't get fooled again. But it wouldn't be much of a terrible impression without me picking a winner. That's why this week I'm choosing the Negaunee Miners to chip away at these Marquette Redmen.
And that was a terrible impression by Kelvin.
Thank you, George W. Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thanks for joining us.
The Local 3 High School Sports Zone has been sponsored by Public Service Garage, Marquette Automotive, Slumberland Furniture,